What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am back again with another video, and in today's video I'm going to be explaining to y'all the best ways and the uses of some of the more rare items in the game, with those rare items being carbon composite, factory parts, hydraulic parts, flight controllers, heat sensors, and gun oil. A lot of people find these items pretty hard to find, and if you are one of these players that struggle with this video, then fear no longer. I'm going to explain to you every single way you can find these items in the game of Last Day on Earth. If you guys do enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, be sure to subscribe. It helps the channel out so much, and it is absolutely free, and you can always change your mind later. But with that being said, let's get right into the video. So the first one I'm going to talk about in this video is the carbon composite. The main thing that you'll need carbon composite for is just weapon modifications. It is probably the most common thing you will need in weapon modifications, with most of the higher end modifications requiring carbon composite. There are multiple ways to obtain this. One of the ways is through season rewards. You can also get it by recycling guns in the recycler. You can also get it from the second floor of Bunker Bravo, as well as the sunken box at the port. Or if you get lucky, you can get it from fishing in those crates that you get when you fish. It will sometimes appear in a crate. Now it is very rare, but the best way to get carbon composites, in my opinion, is during the port laboratory event. Basically what it is during the event, zombies will drop carbon composite. So if you clear A1 of the port laboratory, you will pretty much leave with 3 to 4 carbon composites, and if you clear the entirety of the port laboratory, you can get upwards of 16 carbon composites. This is the best way, in my opinion, to get carbon composites, because during this event the port laboratory is also so much easier to clear. So if you are looking for carbon composites, you need to be doing the port laboratory every event. Next thing are factory parts. The factory parts are very, very similar to the carbon composite in the aspect that you will need them when modding your weapons. Odds are, if you're modding a weapon and it needs carbon composite, there's like a 90% chance that it will also need weapon parts. These are a little bit easier to get because you can get them from the season pass. Also, you can get them by recycling weapons, same as the carbon composite. You can get them from Bunker Bravo, the sunken box. Unlike the carbon composite, you can also get these from spinning the caps at the gas station. This is actually not that hard to get at the gas station. That's one of the best ways to get weapon parts, in my opinion. Obviously, with the best still being the Bunker Bravo event, because during that event you can get carbon composites, as I mentioned before, but you also have just as good of a chance as getting weapon parts. So if these are 2 items that you're looking for modifying your weapons, then you need to get your ass up and do the damn port laboratory event. Next up is an item that's not necessarily needed as much as weapon parts or carbon composite, and that are hydraulic parts. You only need these for a few things, with that being to assemble the drone. You need 10 of those, and then you also need 10 of them to fix the forklift at the transport hub. Those are all further into the game. But also for the settlements, you will need them for level 17, 19, 22, and 30 if you're trying to upgrade the minivan. And then it's not in the game yet, but the trolley and the 3rd floor of the port laboratory also will require them. Like I said, it's not in the game, so there's really no point in putting the hydraulic parts in there, but you will need them in the future, maybe. Really, there aren't that many ways to get this. The main way you can get them is by killing the carrion boss or the blight boss. They will both drop 2 to 3 hydraulic parts, but they can also be found as a reward from doing expeditions. And then also, I think they added it to where you can get them as a chance from a loot box at the transport hub. So yeah, it kind of balances out. They don't have that many uses, but at the same time, there's really not that many different ways to get them. So basically, if you need them, your best bet is just to go to do the bosses at the end of the A2 section and the end of the B2 section at the port laboratory. And while I'm on the subject of things you need for your drone, I have the flight controller next. Really, the only uses you will need for this are you'll need 10 of them when you're building your drone initially, and then once you start being able to modify and put weapon mods on the drone, you will also need flight controllers for some of the mods. I believe the flight controller can also be recycled, but don't quote me on that, I could be completely wrong. Now, there are only 2 ways to obtain the flight controller, with the first one being to craft them in the electronics lab, but I do not recommend doing this because it'll cost 20 titanium bars, 10 high-tech components, 5 electronic circuits, and 5 fiberglass for 1 single flight controller. I do not recommend doing that. Don't do it. Please, for the love of God, don't do it. Instead, all you need to do to get this is to kill the A2 boss and the B2 boss in the port laboratory. If you're in like a rush to get your drone, then you can do, if you complete the port laboratory on both easy and hard mode, then you can be walking out with 4 flight controllers. And I don't know if y'all have noticed, but every item I've mentioned before with the carbon composite, the factory parts, the hydraulic parts, and the flight controller, then I've mentioned the port laboratory being the best location to get all 4 of these items, and that is so true. Whenever you're looking at the calendar for the season events and you see port laboratory event coming up, then be prepared for that, because that is the best and most efficient way to get all 4 of these. If you're doing it really any other way, then I don't want to say you're doing it wrong, because there's really no wrong way to play this game. But if you're getting these items not through the port laboratory event, then yeah, you're doing it wrong. Another rare item that is pretty hard to find is the heat sensor. Really, the only reason you'll need a heat sensor is if you're trying to level up your turrets. To be completely honest, turrets are pretty useless right now, but if they add anything in the future, like a PvP, or if you just need a turret to be able to destroy your hordes, then a heat sensor is a must-have. But you'll also need heat sensor if you're building the seaweed farm at the port, and it also requires 4 heat sensors to finalize the drone upgrade workbench. Really, the only way to get these, apart from buying a pack that has a chance of getting them, is just by destroying turrets at Bunker Alpha and Bunker Bravo. It is a pretty rare drop for them to drop heat sensors, but you really don't need that many. And then also, I'm not sure, but I think you can also get them from raids. While I'm on the subject of raids, you can also give them to raiders, and they actually value them quite a bit. So if you have a bunch of them sitting around, then you can just give them to the raiders. But what I recommend doing is, if you have so many heat sensors, because you got what you need with them, you can also recycle them. They'll give you aluminum bars and steel bars. So if you're needing steel, which odds are you are, I really recommend recycling these. And then I saved the easiest item to obtain for last, gun oil. Really, the only uses for this are for the pressing machine and if you're making explosive material, but its main use is for weapon modifications. This item is very, very common if you know the right places to look for it. You can find it pretty rarely in red zones. There's also a chance of it dropping in the port laboratory crates. You can get them from raids on AI bases. You can get them at the Destroyed Convoy event. They're in the sunken box at the port. They also show up as rewards for the final boxes in Bunker Bravo. There's also a handful of them at the floppy disk, but the best way to get this will be a hard mode Bunker Alpha. The doggy doors will sometimes have them, but zombies will also drop them if you're doing Bunker Alpha on hard mode. If you clear out hard mode Bunker Alpha, you can probably walk out with about 10-15 gun oil. And since gun oil isn't something that you typically need a lot of, if you just clear Bunker Alpha out on hard mode a couple times, then you will be set with gun oil. And that is the video, guys. I hope y'all did enjoy. Again, if you did, be sure to leave a like. It helps the video reach a higher audience. So that is one of the best ways and a very free way to help support the channel if that is something you are wanting to do. If you guys have any other items you want to see, maybe if I ever do a part 2 of this video, another item that you have a hard time finding them, leave them in the comments down below and maybe I'll make a part 2. Also, if you have any questions about the video or about the game, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will do my best to respond to every single comment that I see. Or if you want, the Discord is, as always, in the description. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to check that out. But yeah, anyway guys, that is all for me. I hope you guys all have an amazing rest of y'all's day. I'm out. Peace.